Hello, hello.
Hello. How you
Welcome.
doing?
Thank you, everybody, for tuning into our show for this week. Um, we're going to do things a little bit differently, but I'll get into that. We'll just do a quick recap of our week. So, Ambs, do you want to get us started?
Yeah, sure. Well, this is quite interesting. I'll mention the very
Mm-hmm.
pressing matter I have. My computer won't turn on for some reason,
Oh,
and
no.
I am stuck using my phone right now. So
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna try to fix it tomorrow. We think it's a power thing, maybe a battery thing. So
Mm-hmm.
this is very unfortunate. I need that computer for art making, but we'll figure it out. Um,
Yep.
yeah.
That's
um,
totally fine. It happens. Technical difficulties.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope that gets finished soon. And then I've also been, if anyone's been, well, for those that follow me on social media, I've been doing Inktober. Also been doing it on
Mm-hmm.
TikTok. So
Okay.
seems like a lot of people are enjoying that. It's a lot of work. Oh my God, I had no
Mm-hmm.
idea. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Like trying to make the art and also record it, and then I'm like
Yep.
learning how like the different sounds for TikTok and
Mm-hmm.
how to do them and whatnot. So it's very interesting, but also kind of fun, um, exhausting, but whatever.
Yep.
It's a new experience, and
Okay.
I'm also trying to get like normal work stuff done and commissions. So it's all just a different ball of wax. I might just be like a ghost slash zombie for this whole month, and then I can get back to normal things in
No
November.
worries. I mean,
That's
it happens. I mean, you were planning for it, so I mean, it's definitely something, but it keeps you active and busy and creative and all that stuff.
yeah,
It's kind of fun to have something to look forward to and keep up with.
definitely, yeah, definitely. I'm also finding my creative limits too, so that's really interesting to discover.
Hmm.
How about you, Grims? How are you?
Nothing too crazy for me, just usual work stuff. The more interesting thing will be tomorrow, which this weekend is New York Comic Con. So I am going
Ooh.
tomorrow to New York Comic
Mhm.
Con. Not anything crazy costume plans. I'm going to go with Melissa. I just didn't coordinate any of the stuff. I didn't make any costumes this year. A, because I just didn't really have the time, but B, also when I sew, I put a lot of pressure on my back and I hunch over a lot. And with my
All right.
recent back pain, I didn't want to add any aggravation to that. So
Mhm.
just didn't make anything. And we're just going to try to figure something out. Right now, we're not able to coordinate. It's mostly my fault. I don't really have much outside of t-shirts and pants. Like I'm pretty bland as a dresser. She has more fun stuff. So I think I
Okay.
have like this costume thing. I think I'm gonna end up going with it. Uh that is Tolly from Mass Effect. I don't know if you know anything about Mass Effect, but it's one of Gort's favorite
Oops.
video games. So he had bought me that. So it's kind of like a leggings and what's it called? I was gonna say jumper because I'm thinking British. Sweater type thing.
Sweater.
Yeah, sweater.
I like
Um,
that.
yeah, type thing. I might do that, or I have the Beetlejuice costume, which I think I showed last time for my birthday. I may
Ooh.
potentially just do that too. So we'll see.
Mm.
I'll wake
Yeah.
up tomorrow and I'll probably see what I feel like and kind of go for there. See if my hair wants to participate, and that might help it
Oh yeah.
decide because I can hide
I'm
hair
kind
better on
of
one than the other.
I'm kind of surprised I haven't gotten into Mass Effects. It just seems like something I'd be really into.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I haven't delved into that yet, and I know it's like I don't even know when it
Well,
started. So,
Gort loves it. It is definitely a commitment, not just for playing the game, but because it's a game that I guess every sequel also ties into it. So whatever decisions you make in the first one will affect what happens in the second one. So it's not like other games where you would maybe start over with like a fresh canon type thing, and so like whatever decisions you made before don't have any effect to you. No, somehow in their algorithm in some way they made it so like certain decisions that you've made can really make major decisions later. Like, for example, certain characters may die because of a decision you made in the first game. Now that person dies on the third game. Like, had you chose something differently, then maybe a different outcome would have happened. So it's definitely something that he
mhm.
likes because it continues on. That not each game is individual, so you can have completely different playthroughs. I mean, it's the basic storyline,
Cool.
but different effects that happen to it. So that is
Hmm.
definitely something. I've never really watched. Yeah, he wants me to watch him play through with it. Actually, he wanted me to physically play it, but I'm not good at that. I'm better at watching people do it and like kind of checking in and out from it. But it's a
Mhm.
very reading intensive game, and I'm not really so much into the reading intensive stuff. I kind of just like watching the basic like shoot them down type things. So that's where it's not so much. I like the idea. It's just commitment. So that's probably all I can say about the
Right.
game that I know of. It's in space. That's about the other thing about it. That's it.
Mhm.
But the other thing, so while you're doing your thing, I'm going to just be working on making one of the inserts. I think I showed the Eat It bag before. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a
Oh,
Weasley Wizard Wheezes. This one I did not make. This one was one that I purchased for the frog card, but I want to do that one because I mean the Weasley twins are my favorite Harry Potter characters. So I'm going to be kind of working that on the back end and building up the insert so I can bring that with me tomorrow since I want to sport them. But
okay.
yeah. So
Yay.
for those listening, watching, or whatnot, this week is going to be a little bit different. Ambs wants to read us a short story, so she has picked a short story that she thinks that we would enjoy. Of course, so that means that she's going to be doing a bunch of talking. I don't know if there'll be much commentary into it. I'll try to, since her computer is down. She can't see chat, so if you do comment in chat, I'll try to relay the message as best as I can if it feels that we need to. And then I guess afterwards we'll just have a discussion about it or whatnot. I don't know if you want
Yeah.
us to interrupt you or anything. That's up to
Um.
you.
Yeah. I don't know. I was just trying to think of ideas for a show because,
Mm-hmm.
not to lie, I'm sorry, guys, but we're
Yeah,
kind of stretched thin at this point.
yeah.
Um.
So we
But
wanted
I
to
was
give
just like,
a couple things a shot.
yeah. Yeah, so I was like, hey, it's October, it's spooky month. I might as well do a spooky story. So
Mm-hmm.
I have this giant, lovely book called
Mm-hmm.
Necronomicon from like some of the most popular stories from H.P. Lovecraft. So I would do Call of Cthulhu, but it's like what 20 pages long. So
Yeah.
that's a little
It's
too
gonna be
long.
too long for a short story, just especially for
Right.
reading out loud from it. But yeah,
Right.
so
So
take it away.
yeah, sure. So I'll be doing the Nameless City. And I'll try to be as coherent as possible. I don't usually read out loud, so I hope you guys enjoy. So, the Nameless City. When I drew nigh the nameless city, I knew it was accursed. I was traveling in a parched and terrible valley under the moon, and afar I saw it protruding uncannily above the sands as parts of a corpse may protrude from an ill-made grave. Fear spoke from the age-worn stones of this hoary survivor of the deluge, this great-grandmother of the eldest pyramid. A viewless aura repelled me and bade me retreat from antique and sinister secrets that no man should see, and no man else has ever dared to see. Remote in the desert of Araby lies the nameless city, crumbling and inarticulate, its low walls nearly hidden by the sands of uncounted ages. It must have been thus before the first stones of Memphis were laid, and while the bricks of Babylon were yet unbaked. There is no legend so old as to give it a name or to recall that it ever was alive, but it is told of in whispers around campfires and muttered about by grandams in the tents of the sheiks, so that all the tribes shun it without wholly knowing why. It was of this place that Abdul, sorry the name, Alrazed, oh yeah, I think it's Alrazed? I don't know, I'm probably butchering that. The mad poet dreamed on the night before he sang his unexplainable couplet. That is, that is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange eons even death may die. So spooky. Um, I should have known that the Arabs had good reason for shunning the nameless city, and the city told of in strange tales, but seen by no living man. Yet I defied them, and went into the untrodden waste with my camel. As alone, I alone have seen it. Hang on one sec. And that is why no other face bears such hideous lines of fear as mine. Why no other man shivers so horribly when the night wind rattles the windows. When I came upon it, In the ghastly stillness of unending sleep, it looked at me, chilly from the rays of a cold moon amidst the desert's heat. And as I returned its look, I forgot my triumph at finding it, and stopped still with my camel to wait for the dawn. For hours I waited, till the east grew gray and the stars faded, and the gray turned to roseate light, interesting, edged with gold. I heard a moaning and saw a storm of sand stirring among the antique stones, though the sky was clear and the vast reaches of desert still. Then suddenly, above the desert's far rim came a blazing edge of the sun, seen through the tiny sandstorm which was passing away, and in my fevered state I fancied that from some remote depth there came a crash of musical metal to hail the fiery disk as Memnon hails it from the banks of the Nile. My ears rang and my imagination seethed as I led my camel slowly across the sand to that unvocal place, that place which I alone of living men had seen. In and out amongst the shapeless foundations of houses and places, I wandered, finding never a carving or inscription to tell of these men, if men they were, who built this city and dwelt therein so long ago. The antiquity of the spot was unwholesome, and I longed to encounter some sign or device to prove that the city was indeed fashioned by mankind. There were certain proportions and dimensions in the ruins which I did not like. I had with me many tools and dug much within the walls of the obliterated edifices, but progress was slow, and nothing significant was revealed. When night and the moon returned, I felt a chill wind which brought new fear, so that I did not dare to remain in the city. As I went outside the antique walls to sleep, a small sighing sandstorm gathered behind me, blowing over the gray stones, though the moon was bright and most of the desert still. Excuse me. I awake just at dawn from a pageant of horrible dreams, my ears ringing as from some metallic peal. I saw the sun peering redly through the last gusts of the little sandstorm that hovered over the nameless city and marked the quietness of the rest of the landscape. Once more I ventured within those brooding ruins that swelled beneath the sand like an ogre under a coverlet, and again dug vainly for relics of the forgotten race. At noon I rested, and in the afternoon, hang on, I think I lost my place. And in the afternoon I spent much time tracing the walls and bygone streets and the outlines of the nearly vanished buildings. I saw that the city had been mighty indeed, and wondered at the sources of its greatness. To myself, I pictured all the splendors of an age so distant that Chaldea could not recall it, and thought of Sarnat the Doomed, that stood in the land of Minar when mankind was young, and of Ib, that was carven of gray stone before mankind existed. All at once I came upon a place where the bedrock rose stark through the sand and formed a low cliff. And here I saw with joy what seemed to promise further traces of the antediluvian people. That's a word. Hewn rudely on the face of the cliff were unmistakable facades of several small squat rock houses or temples, whose interiors might preserve many secrets of ages too remote for calculation, though sandstorms have long since affected any carvings which may have been outside. Very low and sand-chalked were all the dark apertures near me, but I cleared one with my spade and crawled through it, carrying a torch to reveal whatever mysteries it might hold. When I was inside, I saw that the cavern was indeed a temple, and beheld plain signs of the race that had lived and worshipped before the desert was a desert. Primitive altars, pillars, and niches, all curiously low, were not absent, and though I saw no sculptures or frescoes, there were many singular stones clearly shaped into symbols by artificial means. The The lowness of the chiseled chamber was very strange, for I could hardly kneel upright, but the area was so great that my torch showed only part of it at a time. I shuddered oddly in some of the far corners, for certain altars and stones suggested forgotten rites of terrible, revolting, and inexplicable nature, and made me wonder what manner of men could have made and frequented such a temple. When I had seen that the place contained, when I had seen all that the place had contained, I crawled out again, avid to find what the temples might yield. Hey, I'm gonna pause real quick because I'm like, "Ugh." I don't usually talk out loud for that long.
As I
Excuse
say,
me.
dry throat, dry throat.
Yeah, just a bit. I'm like trying to push through it. Mm,
No worries. Take your time.
thank you. Got some tea to the left of me, so that'll help a bit.
Yeah, the nice and the warmness of it will definitely
Yeah.
help.
All right, here we go. Night had now approached, yet the tangible things I had seen made curiosity stronger than fear, so that I did not flee from the long mooncast shadows that had daunted me when first I saw the nameless city. In the twilight, I cleared another aperture, and with a new torch crawled into it, finding more vague stones and symbols, though nothing more definite than the other temple had contained. The room was just as low, but much less broad, ending in a very narrow passage crowded with obscure and cryptical shrines. About these shrines I was prying when the noise of the wind and my camel outside broke through the stillness and drew me forth to see what could have frightened the beast. The moon was gleaming vividly over the primitive ruins, lighting a dense cloud of sand that seemed blown by a strong but decreasing wind from some point along the cliff ahead of me. I knew it was this chilly, sandy wind which had disturbed the camel and was about to lead him to a place of better shelter when I chanced to glance up and saw that there was no wind atop the cliff. This astonished me and made me fearful again. I immediately recalled the sudden local winds that I had seen heard before sunrise and sunset, and judged it was a normal thing. Hang on, I'm going to mute real quick.
Totally fine. Take your time. No worries.
Thank you. This is new. Oh my god. Why is this hard?
Well, it's a lot of talking. You take breaks and breathers and yes, the speaking. That's why you always see like comedians and stuff like that. Yeah, they're up there talking and gabbing and gabbing, gabbing. But they do always
Oh my
have like some
god.
water or liquid or things of that nature so that they can stop and breathe from there.
Should have brought a water bottle. Oh my god. Alright. Bear with me. Thank you. Okay. So I think I got my place. Okay. Here we go.
Okay.
I decided I got it. I decided it came from some rock fissure leading to a cave, and that was the sandstorm we were talking about. And washed troubled sand to trace it to its source. Soon perceiving that it came from the black orifice of a temple a long distance south of me, almost out of sight. Against the choking sand cloud, I plodded toward this temple, which as I neared it, loomed larger than the rest, and showed a doorway far less clogged with caked sand. I would have entered had not the terrific force of the icy wind almost quenched my torch. It poured madly out of the dark door, sighing uncannily as it ruffled the sand and spread among the weird ruins. Soon it grew fainter, and the sand grew more and more still, till finally all was at rest again, but a presence seemed stalking among the spectral stones of the city, and when I glanced at the moon, it seemed to quiver as though mirrored in unquiet waters. I was more afraid than I could explain, but not enough to dull my thirst for wonder. So as soon as the wind was not quiet? It looks like it says quite weird. Was quite gone. Oh. I crossed into the dark chamber from which it had come. This temple, as I had fancied from the outside, was larger than either of those I had visited before. and was presumably a natural cavern, since it bore winds from some region beyond. Here I could stand quite upright, but saw that the stones in the and altars were as low as those other temples. On the walls and roof, I beheld for the first time some traces of the pictorial art of the ancient race, curious curling streaks of paint that had almost faded or crumbled away, and on two of the altars I saw with rising excitement a maze of well-fashioned, curvilinear carvings. As I held my torch aloft, it seemed to me that the shape of the roof was too regular to be natural, and I wondered what the prehistoric clutters of stone had first worked upon. Their engineering skill must have been vast. Drink break. Hang on.
Righto.
I swear I'll get through this. Then a brighter flare of the fantastic flame showed that for which I had been seeking, the opening to those remoter abysses whence the sudden wind had blown. And I grew faint when I saw that it was a small and plainly artificial door chiseled in the solid rock. I thrust my torch within, beholding a black tunnel, with the roof arching low, excuse me, over a rough flight of very small, numerous, and steeply descending steps. Well, that sounds warm and inviting. I shall always see those steps in my dreams, for I came to learn what they meant. At the time, I hardly knew whether to call them steps or mere footholds in a precipitous descent. My mind was whirling with mad thoughts, and the words and warnings of Arab prophets seemed to float across the desert from the lands that men know to the nameless city that men dare not know. Yet I hesitated only for a moment before advancing through the portal and commencing to climb cautiously down the steep passage, feet first, as though on a ladder. It is only in the terrible phantasms of drugs or delirium that any other man can have such a descent as mine. The narrow passage led infinitely down, like some hideous haunted well, and the torch I held above my head could not light the unknown depths towards which I was crawling. I lost track of the hours and forgot to consult my watch, though I was frightened when I thought of the distance I must be traversing. There were changes of direction and steepness, and once I came to a long, low, level passage where I had to wriggle my feet first on the rocky floor, holding torch at arm's length beyond my head. The place was not high enough for kneeling. After that were more of the steep steps, and I was still scrambling down interminably when my failing torch died out. I do not think I noticed it at the time, for when I did notice it, I was still holding it above me as if it were ablaze. I was quite unbalanced with that instinct for the strange and unknown which had made me a wanderer upon the earth, and a haunter of far ancient and forbidden places. In the darkness, there flashed before my mind fragments of my cherished treasury of demonic lore, sentences from, there's that name again, I think it's Al-Hazred, the Mad Arab, paragraphs from the apocryphal nightmares of Damascus, and infamous lines from the delirious Image du Monde of Gauthier de Metz. Different, unique names. I repeated queer extracts and muttered of a phrase. Oh my god. A phrasiab and the demons that floated with him down on the Oxus. Later chanting over and over again a phrase from one of Lord Dunsany's tales. The unreverberate blackness of the abyss. Once the descent grew amazingly steep, I recited something in sing-song from Thomas Moore until I feared to recite more. I'm not going to do it sing-song, by the way. No. I don't feel comfortable with that.
It's all right.
A reservoir of darkness, black as witches' cauldrons are when filled with moon drugs the eclipse distilled. Leaning to look if foot might pass down through that chasm, I saw beneath, as far as vision could explore, the jetty's sides as smooth as glass, looking as if just varnished over with that dark pitch of the seed of death throws out upon its slimy shore. Ew. Time had quite ceased to exist when my feet again felt the level floor, and I found myself in a place slightly higher than the rooms in the two smaller temples, now incalculably far above my head. There you go. Got through it. I could not quite stand, but could kneel upright, and in the dark I shuffled and crept hither and thither at random. I soon knew that I was in a narrow passage, whose walls were lined with cases of wood having glass fronts. As in that Paleozoic and abysmal place, I felt such things as. Wait, hang on. I'm like reading back and forth. Here, we use my bookmark. I soon knew that I was in a narrow passage, whose walls were lined with cases of wood and having glass fronts. As in that Paleozoic and abysmal place, I felt such things as polished wood and glass. I shuddered at the possible implications. The cases were apparently ranged along each side of the passage at regular intervals, and were oblong and horizontal, hideously like coffins in shape and size. When I tried to move two or three for further examination, I found that they were firmly fastened. I saw that the passage was a long one, so floundered ahead rapidly in a creeping run that would have seemed horrible to any eye watched me in the blackness, crossing from side to side occasionally to feel of my surroundings and be sure the walls and rows of cases still stretched on. Man is so used to thinking visually that I almost forgot the darkness and pictured the endless corridor of wooden glass as it in its low studded monotony, as though I saw it. And then in a moment of indescribable emotion, I did see it. Oh, that's creepy. Just when my fancy merged into real sight, I cannot tell. But there came a gradual glow ahead, and all at once I knew that I saw the dim outlines of the corridor and the cases, revealed by some unknown subterranean phosphorescence. For a little while, all was exactly as I had imagined it, since the glow was very faint, but as I mechanically kept stumbling ahead into the stronger light, I realized that my fancy had been but feeble. This hall was no relic of crudity like the temples in the city above, but a monument of the most magnificent and exotic art. Rich, vivid, and daringly fantastic designs and pictures form a continuous scheme of mural painting whose lines and colors were beyond description. The cases were of a strange golden wood, with fronts of exquisite glass containing the mummified forms of creatures outreaching in grotesqueness in the most chaotic dreams of man. To convey any idea of these monstrosities is impossible. They were of the reptile kind, with body lines suggesting sometimes the crocodile, sometimes the seal, but more often nothing of which either the naturalist or the paleontologist ever heard. In size, they approximated a small man, and their forelegs bore delicate and evident feet, curiously like human hands and fingers. But strangest of all were their heads, which presented a contour violating all known biological principles. To nothing can such things be well compared. In one flash, I thought of comparisons as varied as the cat, the bulldog, the mythic satyr, and the human being. Not Jove himself had so colossal and protuberant a forehead, yet the horns and the noselessness of the alligator-like jaw placed the things outside all established categories. I debated for a time the reality of the mummies, half suspecting they were artificial idols, but soon decided they were indeed some Paleogean species, which had lived in where the nameless city was alive. To crown their grotesqueness, most of them were gorgeously enrobed in the costliest of fabrics, and lavishly laden with ornaments of gold, jewels, and unknown shining metals. The importance of these crawling creatures must have been vast, for they held first place among the wild designs on the frescoed walls and ceiling. With matchless skill had the artist drawn them in a world of their own, wherein they had cities and gardens fashioned to suit their dimensions, and I could not help but think that their pictured history was allegorical, perhaps shewing the progress of the race that worshipped them. These creatures, I said to myself, were to the men of the timeless city what the she-wolf was to Rome. Oh, excuse me. Or some totem beast is to a tribe of Indians. Yeah. Ugh. Holding this view, I could trace roughly a wonderful epic of the nameless city. The tale of a mighty seacoast metropolis that ruled the world before Africa rose out of the waves, and of its struggles as the sea shrank away and the desert crept into the fertile valley that held it. I saw its wars and triumphs, its troubles and defeats, and afterward its terrible fight against the desert when thousands of its people, here represented in allegory by the grotesque reptiles, were driven to chisel their way down through the rocks in some marvelous manner to another world whereof their prophet had told them. It was all vividly weird and realistic, and its connection with the awesome descent I had made was unmistakable. I even recognized the passages. As I crept along the corridor towards the brighter light, I saw later stages of the painted epic. The leave-taking of the race that had dwelt in the nameless city in the valley for 10 million years, the race whose souls shrank from quitting scenes their bodies had known so long, where they had settled as nomads in the earth's youth, hewing in the virgin rock those primal shrines at which they had never ceased to worship. Now that light was better, I studied the picture more closely, and remembering the strange reptiles must represent the unknown men, pondered upon the customs of the nameless city. Many things were peculiar and inexplicable. The civilization, which included a written alphabet, has seemingly risen to a higher order than those immeasurably later civilizations of Egypt and Chaldea. Yet there were curious omissions. I could, for example, find no pictures to represent deaths or funeral customs, save such as were related to wars, violence, and plagues. And I wondered at the reticence shown concerning natural death. Oop, hang on, sorry, I'm trying to adjust. It was as though the idea of immortality had been fostered as a cheering illusion. Still nearer the end of the passage were painted scenes of the utmost picturesqueness. Ugh, I butchered that, sorry. And extravagance. Contrasted views of the nameless city and its desertion and growing ruin, and of the strange new realm of paradise to which the race had hewed its way through the stone. In these views, the city and the desert valley were shewn always by moonlight, golden nimbus hovering over the fallen walls and half revealing the splendid perfection of former times, shown spectrally and elusively by the artist. The paradisal scenes were almost too extravagant to be believed, portraying a hidden world of eternal day filled with glorious cities and ethereal hills and valleys. At the very last, I thought I saw signs of an artistic anticlimax. The paintings were less skillful and much more bizarre than even the wildness of the earlier scenes. They seemed to record a slow decadence of the ancient stock, coupled with a growing ferocity towards the outside world, which it was driven by the desert. The forms of the people, always represented by the sacred reptiles, appear to be gradually wasting away, though their spirit is shown hovering, or shown? I think it's shown, as shown hovering above the ruins by moonlight gained in proportion. Emaciated priests displayed as reptiles in ornate robes, cursed the upper air and all who breathed it. And uh, one terrible final scene showed a primitive-looking man, perhaps a pioneer of ancient Iram, the city of pillars, torn to pieces by members of the elder race. I remember how the Arabs feared the nameless city, and was glad that beyond this place the gray walls and ceiling were bare. Yeah, just a little like side tidbit. When I'm reading, I think he wrote shown as with oh hang on, let me try and find it. Or he did showed. It's like Shewed. It just
Is
it
it different
sounds weird.
spelling?
Yeah, I guess so. This was well, these stories were created in like the early 1900s, so I'm not too surprised. So it
Mm-hmm.
was a little bit of a curve. So,
No worries.
but I will continue. As I viewed the pageant of mural history I had approached very closely at the end of the low-ceilinged hall, and was aware of a gate through which came all of the illuminating phosphorescence. Excuse me. Creeping up to it, I cried aloud in transcendent amazement at what lay beyond. For instead of other and brighter chambers, there was only an illimitable void of uniform radiance, such as one might fancy when gazing down from the peak of Mount Everest upon a sea of sunlit mist. Behind me was a passage so cramped that I could not stand upright in it. But before me was an infinity of subterranean effulgence. Ooh, that's a word. Reaching down from the passage into the abyss was the head of a steep flight of steps. More steps. Oh my gosh. Small, numerous steps like those of black passages I had traversed, but after a few feet, the glowing vapors concealed everything. Swung back open against the left-hand wall of the passage was a massive door of brass, incredibly thick and decorated with fantastic bas reliefs. I think that's how it's like BAS. Right? I think the S is silent, so like bas reliefs. Which could, if closed shut, the whole inner world of light away from the vaults and passages of rock. I looked at the steps, and for the nuns dared not try them. Hang on, let me read. Let me reread that. I looked at the steps, and for the nuns dared not try them. Interesting. I touched open the brass door and could not move it. Then I sank, prone to the stone floor, my mind aflame with prodigious reflections, which not even a death-like exhaustion could banish. As I laid still with closed eyes, free to ponder, many things I had lightly noted in the frescoes came back to me with new and terrible significance. Scenes representing the nameless city in its heyday, the vegetation of the valley around it, and the distant lands with which its merchants traded. The allegory of the crawling creatures puzzled me by its universal prominence, and I wondered that it would be so closely followed in a pictured history of such importance. In the frescoes of the nameless city had been shown, I'm going to say shown, same thing, in proportions fitted to the reptiles. I wondered what its real proportions and its magnificence had been, and reflected a moment on certain oddities I had noticed in the ruins. I thought curiously of the lowness of the primal temples and of the underground corridor, which were doubtless hewn thus out of deference to the reptile deities there honored, though it perforce reduced the worshippers to crawling. Perhaps the very rites here involved a crawling in imitation of the creatures. No religious theory, however, could easily explain why the level passages in that awesome descent should be as low as the temples, or lower, since one could not even kneel in it. As I thought of the crawling creatures, whose hideous mummified forms were so close to me, I felt a new throb of fear. Mental associations are curious, and I shrank from the idea that except for a poor primitive man torn to pieces in the last painting, mine was the only human form amidst the many relics and symbols of primordial life. But as always in my strange and roving existence, wonder soon wonder soon drove out fear, for the luminous abyss and what it might contain presented a problem worthy of the greatest explorer. That a weird world of mystery lay far down that flight of peculiarly small steps I could not doubt, and I hoped to find there those human memorials which had painted corridor had failed to give. The frescoes had pictured unbelievable cities and valleys in this lower realm, and my fancy dwelt on the rich and colossal ruins that awaited me. My fears indeed concerned the past rather than the future. Not even the physical horror of my position in that cramped corridor of dead reptiles and antediluvian frescoes, miles below the world I knew and faced by another world of eerie light and mist, could match the lethal dread I felt at the abysmal antiquity of the scene in its soul. An ancientness so vast that measurement is feeble seemed to leer down from the primal stones and rock-hewn temples of the nameless city. Sorry for that pause. I was turning the page. While the very latest of the astounding maps in the frescoes showed oceans and continents that man had forgotten, with only here and there some vaguely familiar outline of what could have happened in the geological ages since the paintings ceased and the death-hating race resentfully succumbed to decay, no man might say. Life had once teemed in these caverns, and in the luminous realm beyond, now I was alone with vivid relics, and I trembled to think of the countless ages through which these relics had kept a silent, deserted vigil. Suddenly there came another burst of acute fear, which had intermittently seized me ever since I first saw the terrible valley and the nameless city under a cold moon. And despite my exhaustion, I found myself starting frantically to a sitting posture and gazing back along the black corridor towards the tunnels that rose to the outer world. My sensations were like those which had made me shun the nameless city at night, and were as inexplicable as they were poignant. In another moment, however, I received a still greater shock in the form of a definite sound, at first which had broken the utter silence of these tomb-like depths. It was a deep, low moaning, as of a distant throng of condemned spirits, and it came from the direction in which I was staring. Its volume rapidly grew, till it soon reverberated frighteningly through the low passage, and at the same time I became conscious of an increasing draught of cold air, likewise flowing from the tunnels in the city above. The touch of this air seemed to restore my balance, for I instantly recalled the sudden gusts which had risen around the mouth of the abyss each sunset and sunrise, one of which had indeed revealed the hidden tunnels to me. I looked at my watch and saw that sunrise was near, so I braced myself to resist the gale that was sweeping down to its cavern home as it swept forth at evening. My fear again waned low, since a natural phenomenon tends to dispel broodings over the unknown. More and more madly poured the shrieking, moaning night wind into the gulf of the inner earth. I dropped prone again and clutched vainly at the floor for fear of being swept bodily through the open gate to the phosphorescent abyss. Such fury I had not expected, and as I grew aware of an actual slipping of my form towards the abyss, I was beset by 1,000 new terrors of apprehension and imagination. The malignancy of the blast awakened incredible fancies. Once more I compared myself shudderingly to the only human image in that frightful corridor, the man who was torn to pieces by the nameless race, for in the fiendish clawing of the swirling currents there seemed to abide a vindictive rage, all the stronger because it was largely impotent. I think I screamed frantically near the last. I was almost mad, but if I did so, my cries were lost in that hell-born babble of howling wind race. Windrits. There you go. I tried to crawl against the murderous invisible torrent, but could not even hold my own as I pushed slowly and inexorably towards the unknown world. Finally, reason must have wholly snapped, for I fell to babbling over and over that inexplicable couplet of the mad Arab who dreamed of the nameless city. That is not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange eons even death may die. Only the grim brooding desert gods know what really took place, what indescribable struggles and scrambles in the dark I endured, or what Abaddon guided me back to life, where I must always remember and shiver in the night wind till oblivion or worse claims me. Monstrous, unnatural, colossal was the thing, too far beyond all ideas of man to be believed, except in the silent, damnable, small hours of the morning when one cannot sleep. I have said that the fury of the rushing blast was infernal. Ooh. Cacode maniacal, and that its voices were hideous with the pent-up viciousness of desolate eternities. Presently these voices, while still chaotic before me, seemed to my beating brain to take articulate form behind me. And down there in the grave of unnumbered eon-dead antiquities, leagues below the dawn-lit world of men, I heard the ghastly cursing and snarling of the strange-tongued fiends. Turning, I saw outlined against the luminous aether of the abyss that could not be seen against the dusk of the corridor a nightmare horde of rushing devils, hate-distorted, grotesquely panoplied, half-transparent devils of a race no man might mistake, the crawling reptiles of the nameless city. And as the wind died away, I was plunged into the ghoul-pooled darkness of earth's bowels, for behind the last of the creatures, the great brazen door clanged shut, the deafening peal of metallic music whose reverberations swelled out into the distant world to hail the rising sun of Memnon hails it from the banks of the Nile. Oh my god! I actually got kind of... So, okay, I'm like sitting in like a dark... I turned off the lights in the office, right?
Uh-huh.
I think I gave myself goosebumps because
Okay.
wow. I kind of like, I got like really immersed in that. That's why I love these stories too.
Okay.
Oh my god, because like with H.P. Lovecraft, I found he really plays on the fear of the unknown. And
Okay.
that's really like what's happening there, because it was like you're not entirely sure and you're left to not be sure in the end of
Mm-hmm.
whether or not the creatures are actually real
Okay.
or if it's just your mind playing tricks on you.
Okay.
Because this person in this account, I'll say, his torch went out.
Okay.
So he was just sitting there in the dark in some strange place that he can barely make out. And his mind was creating some images for him. And
Mm-hmm.
as your mind does in the dark. If you've ever like tried to sit in the dark
Yeah.
and try to like look and like try to make out anything, your mind will start doing that.
Correct. They
So,
say
oh
that
my
like
god.
our minds are always looking for faces and things. Like that's the most common thing
Right.
that people
And
find.
patterns.
Yeah, patterns,
Hmm.
faces. It's just what we do as humans
Hmm.
for it. So yeah.
So yeah, that was. I hope you enjoyed that. That's actually one of the more famous ones too, the Nameless City.
I recognized a bunch of the phrases as you were doing it. I was like, oh, okay.
Hmm.
That
A lot of the
some of the
words
lines.
though, like God, man, I have to like, I have to like transport myself back to college level English and go like, okay,
Mhm.
wait. There's like a lot of like college level words in here, and there are
Mhm.
like certain there was like this one name, oh, what was his name? So the Arab, the mad Arab, his
Okay.
name is spelled Alhazred.
Mhm.
So I don't know how you would pronounce that.
I'm not good at
Like,
pronouncing things anyway, so I
yeah,
wouldn't be able
no.
to help you.
So I'm sorry if I butchered that, but I tried my best.
Mhm.
I
No, it's fine. It's fine.
don't. Mm. And I got this book a while ago, so if anyone wants to buy it, I just look up the Necronomicon by H.P. Lovecraft, because I know there's probably like a million different Necronomicons since, spookiness, and there's even like there's even like a cookbook that's a Necronomicon. So oh, hang on. How much more time do we have?
We have about 40 minutes. So yeah.
Oh, so I could do one more. This is actually one of my favorite ones too, and it is like only 5 pages long.
Sure.
Would you like that?
That's
okay.
Fine.
Oh, hang on. No, my setup is like falling.
I was gonna say, take a drink of water or your tea or something real quick before
starting.
It's gone. Oh, it's gone. Oh, you drank it all.
Yeah.
Do you want to go grab some water or anything like that real quick?
No, I think I'm fine. I think I warmed up the pipes, and I think I'm good. So
good. Right on. Sounds good. No worries.
Thank you. Okay. So one of my favorites, I've even apparently, according to the internet, I'm hang on. I was gonna say, apparently I'm the devil because I dog ear my pages sometimes.
Okay.
And people don't like that. Like, here you go. For instance,
book purists and things of that nature. I mean,
maybe
they probably wouldn't like me. I used to draw in books and things of that nature. So,
oh no,
yeah,
I didn't go that far.
Yeah, don't care. At me, bro.
Right. So, but this is my book. This is not a library book, so whatever. I can dog ear them all I want.
Yeah, so, go ahead.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite stories because it's compelling. So,
okay.
The statement of Randolph Carter. I repeat to you, gentlemen, that your inquisition is fruitless. Detain me here forever, if you will. Confine or execute me, if you must. Have a victim to propitiate the illusion you call justice, but I can say no more than I have said already. Everything that I can remember, I have told you with perfect candor. Nothing has been distorted or conceited, and if anything remains vague, it is only because of the dark cloud which has come over my mind. That cloud and the nebulous nature of the horrors which brought it upon me. Again, I say I do not know what has become of Harley Warren, though I think, almost hope, he is in peaceful oblivion, if there be anywhere so blessed a thing. It is true that I have for 5 years been his closest friend, and a partial share of his terrible researches into the unknown. I will not deny, though my memory is uncertain and indistinct, that this witness of yours may have seen us together, as he says, on the Gainesville Pike, walking towards Big Cypress Swamp at 2:30 on that awful night. That we bore electric lanterns, spades, and a curious coil of wire with attached instruments, I will even affirm. For these things all played a part in the single hideous scene which remains burned into my shaken recollection. But of what followed, and of the reason I was found alone and dazed on the edge of the swamp next morning, I must insist I know nothing save what I have told you over and over again. You say to me that there is nothing in the swamp or near it which could form the setting of that frightful episode. I reply I knew nothing beyond what I saw. Vision or nightmare it may have been, vision or nightmare I fervently hope it was. Yet it is all that my mind retains of what took place in those shocking hours after we left sight of them, and why Harley Warren did not return. He or his shade, or some nameless thing I cannot describe, alone can tell. As I have said before, the weird studies of Harley Warren were well known to me, and to some extent shared by me. Of his vast collection of strange, rare books on forbidden subjects, I have read all that are written in languages of which I am master. Excuse me. But these are few as compared with those in languages I cannot understand. Most, I believe, are in Arabic, and the fiend-inspired book which brought on the end, the book which he carried in his pocket out of the world, was written in characters whose like I never saw elsewhere. Warren could never tell me just what was in that book. As to the nature of our studies, I must say again that I no longer retain full comprehension. It seems to me rather merciful that I do not, for they were terrible studies, which I pursued more through reluctant fascination than through actual inclination. Warren always dominated me, and sometimes I feared him. I remember how I shuddered at his facial expression on the night before the awful happening, when he talked so incessantly of his theory, why certain corpses never decay, but rest firm and fat in their tombs for 1,000 years. But I do not fear him now, for I suspect that he had known horrors beyond my ken. Now I fear for him. Once more I say that I have no clear idea of our object on that night. Certainly it had much to do with something in the book which Warren carried with him, that ancient book in undecipherable characters, which had come to him from India a month before. But I swear I do not know what it was that we expected to find. Your witness says he saw us 2:30 on the Gainesville Pike, headed for Big Cypress Swamp. This is probably true, but I have no distinct memory of it. The picture seared into my soul is of one scene only, and the hour must have been long after midnight, for a waning crescent moon was high in the vaporous heavens. The place was an ancient cemetery, so ancient that I trembled at the manifold signs of immemorial years. 1 second, I'm just checking my phone. Okay. It was in a deep, damp hollow, overgrown with rank grass, moss, and curious creeping weeds, and filled with a vague stench which my idle fancy associated absurdly with rotting stone. It is absurd. Excuse me. On every hand there were signs of neglect and decrepitude, and I seemed haunted by the notion that Warren and I were the first living creatures to invade a lethal silence of centuries. Over the valley's rim, a waning crescent moon peered through the noisome vapors that seemed to emanate from unheard of catacombs, and by its feeble wavering beams I could distinguish a repellent array of antique slabs, urns, cenotaphs, and mausoleum facades, all crumbling, moss-grown, and moisture-stained, and partly concealed by the gross luxuriance of unhealthy vegetation. My first vivid impression of my own presence in this terrible necropolis concerns the act of pausing with Warren before a certain half-obliterated sepulchre, and of throwing down some burdens which we seemed to have been carrying. I now observed that I had with me an electric lantern and 2 spades, whilst my companion was supplied with a similar lantern, and a portable telephone outfit. No word was uttered, for the spot and the task seemed known to us, and without delay we seized our spades and commenced to clear away the grass, weeds, and drifted earth from the flat, archaic mortuary. After uncovering the entire surface, which consisted of 3 immense granite slabs, we stepped back some distance to survey the carnal scene, and Warren appeared to make some mental calculations. Then he returned to the sepulchre, if I'm saying that right, and using his spade as a lever, sought to pry up the slab lying nearest to the stony ruin, which may have been a monument to its day. He did not succeed, and motioned to me to come to his assistance. Finally, our combined strength loosened the stone, which we raised and tipped to one side. The removal of the slab revealed a black aperture, from which rushed an effluence of miasmal gases so nauseous that we started back in horror. After an interval, however, we approached the pit again and found our exhalations less unbearable. Our lanterns disclosed at the top of a flight of stone steps, dripping with some detestable ichor of the inner earth, and bordered by moist walls encrusted with nitre? I think so. And now for the first time my memory records verbal discourse. Warren addressing me at length in his mellow tenor voice, a voice singularly unperturbed by our awesome surroundings. "I'm sorry to have to ask you to stay on the surface," he said, "but it would be a crime to let anyone with your frail nerves go down there. You can't imagine, even from what you have read and from what I've told you, the things I shall have to see and do. It's fiendish work, Carter, and I doubt if any man without ironclad sensibilities could ever see it through and come up alive and sane. I don't wish to offend you, and heaven knows I'd be glad enough to have you with me, but the responsibility is in a certain sense mine, and I couldn't drag a bundle of nerves like you down to a probable death or madness. I tell you, you can't imagine what the thing is really like, but I promise to keep you informed over the telephone of every move. You see, I've enough wire here to reach to the center of the earth and back. I can still hear in memory those coolly spoken words, and I can still remember my remonstrances. I seemed desperately anxious to accompany my friend into those sepulchral depths, yet he proved inflexibly obdurate. Ooh, that's a word. At one time, he threatened to abandon expedition if I remained insistent, a threat which proved effective since he alone held the key to the thing. All this I can still remember, though I no longer know what manner of thing we sought. Excuse me. After he obtained my reluctant acquiescence in his design, Warren picked up the reel of wire and adjusted the instruments. At his nod, I took one of the latter and seated myself upon an age-discolored gravestone close by the newly uncovered aperture. Then he shook my hand, shouldered by the coil of wire, and disappeared within that indescribable ossuary. For a minute, I kept sight of the glow of his lantern, and heard the rustle of the wire as he laid it down after him. But the glow soon disappeared abruptly, as if a turn in the stone staircase had been encountered, and the sound died away almost as quickly. I was alone, yet bound to the unknown depths by those magic strands whose insulated surface lay green beneath the struggling beams of that waning crescent moon. I constantly consulted my watch by the light of my electric lantern, and listened with feverish anxiety at the receiver of the telephone, but for more than a quarter of an hour heard nothing. Then a faint clicking came from the instrument, and I called down to my friend in a tense voice. Apprehensive as I was nevertheless unprepared for the words which came up from that uncanny vault in accents more alarmed and quivering than any I had heard before from Harley Warren. He who had so calmly left me a little while previously, now called from below in a shaky whisper, more portentous than the loudest shriek. God, if you could see what I'm seeing. I could not answer. Speechless, I could only wait. Then came the frenzied tones again. Carter, it's terrible, monstrous, unbelievable. This time my voice did not fail me, and I poured into the transmitter a flood of excited questions. Terrified, I continued to repeat, Warren, what is it? What is it? Once more came the voice of my friend, still hoarse with fear, now apparently tinged with despair. I can't tell you, Carter. It's too utterly beyond thought. I dare not tell you. No man could know it and live. Great God! I never dreamed of this. Stillness again, save now incoherent. Let me restart that. Excuse me. Stillness again, save for now incoherent terror of shuddering inquiry. Then the voice of Warren in a pitch of wilder consternation. Carter, for the love of God, put back the slab and get out of this if you can, quick. Leave everything else and make for the outside. It is your only chance. Do as I say, and don't ask me to explain. I heard, yet was able only to repeat my frantic questions. Around me were the tombs in the darkness of the shadows. Below me, some peril beyond the radius of the human imagination. But my friend was in greater danger than I, and through my fear, I felt a vague resentment that he should deem me capable of deserting him under such circumstances. Excuse me. Whew. More clicking, and after a pause, a piteous cry from Warren. Beat it! For God's sakes, put back the slab and beat it, Carter! Something in the boyish slang of my evidently stricken companion unleashed my faculties. Oh, wait, did he like poo himself or something? Not to break the tension. Hang on.
Waka waka waka.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay. No worries.
I'm just trying to find my place again. I kind of
Okay.
like broke it. Also, I wasn't sure if I was still recording or not.
No, you're still here.
Everything's
We're
okay.
listening. We're listening.
Thank you. Oh, okay. So he's saying to beat it. Something in the boyish slang of my evidently stricken companion unleashed my faculties. I formed and shouted a resolution. Warren, brace up! I'm coming down! But at this well, hey, no, he didn't say that. But at this offer, the tone of my auditor changed to a scream of utter despair. Don't! You can't understand. It's too late. And my own fault. Put back the slab and run. There's nothing else you or anyone can do now. The tone changed again, this time acquiring a softer quality, as of hopeless resignation. Yet it remained tense through anxiety for me. Quick, before it's too late. I tried not to heed him, tried to break through the paralysis which held me, and to fulfill my vow to rush down to his aid. But his next whisper found me still held inert in the chains of stark horror. Carter, hurry! It's no use. You must go. Better one than two. The slab. A pause, more clicking. Then the faint voice of Ward. Nearly over now. Don't make it harder. Cover up those damn steps and run for your life. You're losing time. So long, Carter. Won't see you again. Here Warren's whisper swelled into a cry that gradually rose to a shriek fraught with all the horror of the ages. Curse these hellish things! Legions, my God! Beat it! Beat it! Beat it! After that was silence. I know not how many interminable eons I sat stupefied, whispering, muttering, calling, screaming into that telephone. Over and over again through those eons I whispered and muttered, called, shouted, and screamed, Warren! Warren! Answer me! Are you there? And then there came to me the crowning horror of all, the unbelievable, unthinkable, almost unmentionable thing. I have said that eons seemed to elapse after Warren shrieked forth his last despairing warning, and that only elapse after Warren shrieked forth. Oh, wait, hang on. That only my own cries now broke the hideous silence. But after a while, there was further clicking in the receiver, and I strained my ears to listen. Again, I called down, Warren, are you there? And in answer heard the thing which has brought this cloud over my mind. I do not try, gentlemen, to account for that thing, that voice, nor can I venture to describe it in detail, since the first words took away my consciousness and created a mental blank which reaches to the time of my awakening in the hospital. Shall I say that the voice was deep, hollow, gelatinous, remote, unearthly, inhuman, disembodied? What shall I say? It was the end of my experience, and it is the end of my story. I heard it and knew no more. I heard it as I sat petrified in that unknown cemetery in the hollow amidst the crumbling stones and the falling tombs, the rank vegetation and the miasmal vapors. Heard it well up from the innermost depths of that damnable open sepulchre as I watched amorphous necrophagous shadows dance beneath the accursed waning moon. And this is what it said: You fool, Warren is dead. Ah! Oh my god. My heart. Ah! There you go.
Uh,
That's the end of the story.
what was the name of it
Oh,
again?
it
Famines
was
in the.
it was called The Statement of Randolph Carter. Oh my god, it did it again. when I first read that, I was just like, I was like speed reading at that point, and it was like it made my blood run cold, and I was just like, oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I try to get enthusiastic with it too. So it was just like,
Uh,
oh my god, like can you like imagine like sitting outside in like a dark cemetery and just hearing that?
mm-hmm.
Oh, oh my god. Woo!
Famine
Make I
says,
feel cold.
did she say the 3 words?
What 3 words?
Not quite sure. Just said the 3 words.
The 3 words? But Warren is dead? Warren is dead! There you go.
uh, Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, I just hope you guys like that. That one's my favorite so far. But I still haven't worked my way through this whole book. It's massive.
Mm-hmm.
It has there you go. Yeah, it has like if you can see
Here, I'll make you
that
bigger.
whole page of contents right there. That's all the short stories, a little bit on the back there. But it
Mm-hmm.
has it has the Call of Cthulhu and the Dunwich Horror, the Shadow over Innsmouth. That's also a very famous one, I'm told. But those are like a lot longer. They're like small little novels. In this book, if you can see,
Mm-hmm.
it's like that
Yes,
thick.
quite a bit.
Yeah. So I still need to get through it. And when it comes to me and reading, I have to be like 100% interested in something. Otherwise, I will like
Mm-hmm.
I'll read it, but I won't retain it,
Yeah.
which sucks.
Yeah.
So
I'm a similar way too.
yeah.
I
So
don't think I've read anything for a while, so I would really have to like get myself into it.
yeah.
Someone like Melissa though, she loves reading. She's like a little bookie, so she has like tons and tons and tons of books, and she likes to sit
Neat.
and read and do all that type of stuff. So I'm like, better person than me. I definitely am not like
Uh-huh.
that at all. But yeah, she has like bookshelves and bookshelves of books, and she has a bunch of like crate boxes that are books ones. She does like Owl Crate and some other couple ones that I think that give like a book and then like theme stuff that go with the book theme and stuff. So it's kind of cool
Mm-hmm.
what you can find
Okay.
out there. I don't
Oh
know
well,
if you can.
here.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh well,
I'll
go
make it
ahead and
bigger.
say what we're gonna say. I'm just gonna show off stuff.
No, show it off. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Well, let's just show you. There's like these little neat pictures in the book. There's I forgot like the Miskatonic. Like there's like the Miskatonic University or something like that. Um, there's like a little like map of the town and whatnot, which is kind of neat. And then there's also, if I can find, yeah, there's also this like right at the beginning of the book.
Okay,
Really
that's cool
cool.
looking. I found
There's
out
Cthulhu right
the
there.
3 words. I guess it's something 3 words that are required for the Necronomicon, and is it related to Evil Dead? I guess it's Klaatu
Oh,
Verita Nikto.
oh my God! Yeah, don't say it out loud.
Okay,
No.
I don't even know what
Whatever
that
you
is.
do, don't read the Latin.
Well, I totally mispronounced it, so I don't know if I'm good on that. So,
Okay. No, I know what
but
you're
yeah,
talking about. Yeah. Was that someone in chat?
yeah. It's
Okay.
a friend of ours. Uh,
Okay.
I'm not sure if he's okay with me saying his real name, but yeah, Famine Studios. That's what he
Okay.
does buy online. That's his
Hmm.
Well,
I
what would
know
you
what you're
call it?
talking
It's
about,
like
man.
yeah, is it would be cosplay. I think this is cosplay not name. What would I say? Like business, like all his stuff he does because he does his oh, I'm totally sorry. My
Oh
brain is
no,
like done. Like I've had a
it's
really weird
okay.
week. Cosplay tutorials and stuff of that nature. He does armor, sewing. It's a lot of like a weaponry, that type of stuff.
Oh,
Correct?
okay.
Okay. He says like it.
Yeah, no, I
Yes,
gotcha.
his name is Kevin. He said he gave me permission. Yeah, his name
Oh,
is
hi.
Kevin.
Hi, Kevin. Yes,
Yeah,
I understand. But
yeah,
this
he
is a
was
different Necronomicon, so.
yes. That's why I think there was a confusion from it. Evil Dead, that's one of the ones that Gort uh
Oh, that one's fun.
needs. I think we watched two, the second one, which I guess is a remake of the first one. Or did we watch three? I can't remember. It was one that like he went in medieval times. So I think that's
Yes,
three.
that is the second one. Oh, that one's so fun. Oh, I love how
Let's go
ridiculous
that.
it gets.
Yeah, so it's something of that nature. So like that was
Mhm.
the one that we watched, and it was a little crazy
Mhm.
from it. So yeah, and then I know there's is it HBO or Stars or something, that type of stuff. So he did more of that show and whatnot.
Mhm.
So it was interesting. What I was gonna do is I was gonna
Yeah.
share my final product, but I don't know if you can see it. Like, because I know you're doing it from your phone since your computer doesn't work. Can you see the screen at all or no?
Did you I think you still made me big.
Oh, let me take you down. Sorry.
Yeah.
Ah, here,
But
I'll
I
make
can still
myself.
see you,
Yeah, make myself big. So the
yeah. Yay!
Wizards Weezus pin. So this is the overall layout, but I'll do some close-ups of some of it. So that's the overall like how it is. So I was trying to because there's an actual like that's hard to do it backwards. W of Weasley in there. I totally messed that up. But yeah.
It's
So
okay.
I don't know. I they're my favorite characters, the Weasley twins, just because they're like it's funny because I know they're Gryffindors and the whole family are Gryffindors, and it's funny because I don't like any of the other Weasleys. Arthur, I like a little bit too, but the twins are my favorite. I just don't. It's hard. Like I understand that they're Gryffindors, but for some reason they just always come off a little bit Slytherin at times, and so I guess that's
Oh,
why I
there you
kind of
go.
like them from it because they're I don't know. You know them, so
Isn't that a
they're
thing
little shits.
though? That like people have like combined like two different houses and said like I'm like a Griffin puff or something like that. Or
Yeah, where you
people do
feel
that,
like you're
right?
both. Yeah, a lot of the Slytherins, and I happen to be one. Like I feel and identify as Slytherin, but when I take the
Hmm.
test, they gave me Ravenclaw. So it's like I have a lot of Ravenclaw tendencies as well, just because I am very analytical, especially when I'm in my work environment. I'm definitely like a Ravenclaw personality. There's this bird test that you can take where it's like you're an eagle, owl, peacock, and dove. And so I'm an
Hmm.
owl, which is like the one that's like operational style and making sure that things are all
Oh.
right. And Ravenclaws are kind of seen as similar in nature from it. But yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, I collect overall Weasley twin pins as best as I can. There's like a lot of like really like nice ones. I don't have any of those because I got into the game very very late for all that stuff. But probably
Hmm.
like one of my favorites is this one by uh this one right here with the wands. That was made by Mad Unicorn. So she does like a
Oh.
wand set. So one's supposed to be Frez and one's supposed to be Jors, and then it's their beaters for when they're playing Quidditch. And it's just the overall thing. I like it because it's just cute of the two of them kind of together, and the fact that it still plays out the W. I think that that's kind of really like
That's
a
neat. Yeah.
fun little thing from it.
Oh, I
Um,
love it.
Probably the prettiest one on here is this one, which is made by Laserbrain. I don't know if it's going to give it any kind of justice.
Oh,
Trying to get
that's
it.
pretty.
But yeah, it's when it's supposed to be the scene after, they tell Umbridge to go F herself. So when they do all the when they're flying away and they're doing the little Weasley and all the fireworks and things of that nature.
Oh, right. Yeah,
So
they just completely let loose. I think I remember that actually. Yeah.
yeah, like after they're all like, "Oh, Fred, I think this is time for us to get past a
Don't they
higher
like fly
education."
away from the school too? Like
Yeah,
they completely F off?
yeah, they don't like officially graduate, I guess, in a sense, because they don't complete the school year. It's just their seventh year was Harry's fifth year. And
Oh,
so
okay.
Harry was doing the owls, which is like their testing system, and Umbridge was there. So Umbridge was like going hardcore with it and trying to put down the law and stuff.
Mhm.
And then the Weasley twins, they don't take that. They're pranksters and tricksters, and
Oh, yeah.
you ain't gonna tell me shit. So of course they didn't like the constraint and they felt like there was no need because they had their own little side business kind of in Hogwarts for a while, selling things under the table and all that jazz. So it kind
Well,
of
they
worked out
also
for them.
they sold the Marauders map to Harry, right?
They gave it to him, yes, because
Oh, okay.
that was in book 3, um, that Harry, because he had the Dursleys wouldn't sign, like, the waiver for him to go into Hogsmeade, and so the Weasley twins had stolen the Marauders map. I don't remember from who. They had stolen it, and because that's just how this is more proof that they're more Slytherin than I guess we give them credit for. Um, and they were smart enough to figure out how the map worked. And so I guess whoever had taken take the teacher that had map, they couldn't figure out what to do with it. But the fact that they could do the, I solemnly swear that I'm up to no good. Only people that would think of that would be someone like them. So essentially the map showed them tunnels on how to get out of Hogwarts without taking the proper path. So that's how Harry was able to go to Hogsmeade the first time,
Yeah.
which he used his invisibility cloak because he was not supposed to be there. So he went in through like a tunnel and whatnot. So that's where the Marauders map comes in play. And of course, then the whole story of all that kind of plays from it as well. But yes, it's from them. So yeah, that the map is something that is tied to the twins in particular, and it's definitely there. Although for pinning, most people do put it for the actual Marauders because they do like Sirius and Lupin. Those are probably two of the most popular characters in the Potter world, I would definitely say.
Mm-hmm. Did you say you didn't like Sirius?
Oh, I don't like him. I do not like him as a character. I didn't like Gary. I mean, Gary Oldman. Yeah, Gary Oldman played him well in the movie. So I definitely get credit for that. I do feel like they were played a little old, like the actors, like that they chose, considering how it is. Because I mean, I think when they had Harry, I want to say Lily and James were not much more than 20 years old when they had Harry. And if you consider,
really,
yeah, and if you consider
it, like,
young? Yeah, they were very, very young. Maybe 23, somewhere between 20 and 25. I know they were not much old. They're very old. They died very, very young. And if, let's say we assume 20 years old, and then if Harry's 13 when you first meet Lupin, that would then make them like 33. And then you're seeing who Lupin plays, which is someone that's more like 40 to 50. I don't know how old he was.
Yeah.
And then you got
in his 40s at least.
Yeah, and Sirius was definitely Gary Oldman was definitely much older than that. So it's just kind of like I felt like they always had them older, although I know they were more well-established actors, and of course, all that stuff. Right. But in terms of Sirius, I didn't like him in the books either, so I was very happy. Spoiler that he died in book 5. So I was just
no. I was actually sad.
Yeah, no, book 5 is my favorite book. And I mean, it's not only because he dies in it, but I do like it. It is a pivotal scene, very emotional, but I just something about the character, it just did not. I don't know. I don't know if maybe just because he was in Azkaban so much, so he may have lost his mind a bit. He just never really seemed grown up enough in a sense. Like I liked Lupin better. I think he guided Harry better. I think that Sirius missed James so much that he just couldn't get past the fact that Harry's a kid. And I understand that, there is protection and all that type of stuff, but I just feel like he just wasn't. He overstepped certain bounds that I don't think. Like, you want to be like the cool aunt or the cool uncle type thing. But it was just like, I don't know. That's not what he needed, I guess, in a sense. But that's just me. That's just me. I just didn't care for him.
Yeah. It's okay. Yeah. I'm just like, I'm remembering the emotions I had when I was younger and I watched the movies. And I was just like, oh, he seems so cool. I like him. And then when he died, I was like, oh, no.
Yeah. Everyone loves Sirius. They do love it a lot. I will say, I mean, it's a cool concept of a character. Someone who, essentially he took the fall for what had happened because that's why he was trapped in Azkaban. There because he couldn't prove, I guess, his innocence or whatnot from it. So I will say, he did suffer for unnecessary reasons and that stuff, and he was on the run, and that I guess what people probably, I don't know, I can't speak for it because I'm not a fan, but I guess I almost feel like some people liked it because he came from such a prominent Slytherin family, pure family, and for him to be Gryffindor and not really have those traits per se. I don't know. But yeah, he was his family hardcore Slytherins, like they're full Voldemort style people. They all were. I mean, his brother, I think, was a Death Eater and stuff. Until something happened. Yeah, that's the whole. You watched the movies. Did you read the books?
Well, not all of them. Again, the book thing.
Yeah.
It was really hard to read those. I still haven't, and I think I stopped. I think at the 5th movie.
Okay. Yeah. What I was about to say is
Yeah.
a very big thing in book 6. So you find out a
Oh,
whole
there you
lot
go.
more
Yeah.
about and the thing is the movies do not explain it at all. You barely
Hmm.
understand what it is, and they barely hint at what it is. But in the books, it was a little bit more in depth and whatnot on what happens. Essentially, a Horcrux is tied to the
Hmm.
family. That's all.
I think I might, in all seriousness, try and search for audiobooks
Mm-hmm.
because I found that that's a little bit easier. Like I got through the first book of the Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring,
Mm-hmm.
with an audiobook. And that was actually really fun. So
I
I'm
heard
like in the
those
middle of the Two
are
Towers right now.
Yeah, I heard
Hmm.
so whoever did the audio for them was pretty good from it. I'm
Oh
not
yeah.
really into audiobooks on that nature. But I
Hmm.
did hear that the Harry Potter ones were really, really well done. There are people who only know
Ooh.
them from the audiobooks, like they never actually read the book and they only know
Hmm.
that because I guess, the parents had them listen to it or they chose to listen to it or something of that nature. And so there is a lot of good critiques, I should say, of the audiobooks.
If
But
only
yeah.
they had that when I was in high school. It would have made
Uh
learning a lot easier.
But yeah.
I
I
mean,
mean,
well, they did have
nowadays, audio
audiobooks,
is
but
like
like,
everything.
yeah, I mean, Audible wasn't around when I was in high school.
Mhm,
Weird to
mhm.
say. I feel old now.
Trust me, I feel old all the time, certain things,
Mm,
and then the internet doesn't help because there's all the nostalgia stuff of, like, kids these days
mm.
don't know this type situation, so
Oh, or the fact that they were bringing back some of the old candies, like cream savers. Oh my
Mhm.
god! And the
Well, I know
Kickster Oreos.
the Dunkaroos are really, really popular.
Oh my
I mean,
god, those are
I'm seeing them
oh.
everywhere. The Dunkaroos are everywhere, so they definitely made a
Mm,
comeback. I don't know if they're gonna be a comeback
mm.
for a long time or whatnot, but
Oh,
yeah,
they're
they definitely
they're also bringing back like a specific Pepsi drink. I forgot what blue Pepsi. I think
Okay.
they're
Interesting,
bringing that back. I never tried it though.
interesting.
So yeah, but yeah. Before we wrap up,
Mhm.
since we were talking about I forgot his name. I'm so sorry. They mentioned the three words from the Necronomicon.
Oh,
So I want
Ash from the Evil Dead?
no the person in chat who mentioned it.
Oh, Kevin,
From Fam
or Famine,
Kevin
yeah.
from Famine. Okay,
Mhm.
thank you. I'm sorry. I'm bad with names.
It's okay.
Um, I was gonna show in the story for Call of Cthulhu, the very famous one that I'll probably butcher. That means that in his house at Relay, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming. So it's like in this weird made up text. It's bear
Mhm,
with me.
mhm.
Um, thing Migli, I guess. It's basically gibberish.
Okay.
Mil Naf Cthulhu Relay Wagnala Fatagan. There you
Silly, very silly.
go. It's basically it looks like he took an like anagrams and then
Okay,
replaced some vowels with consonants, and that's what he got. That's what it sounds like to me.
okay, okay.
Because you
I
have
guess
like
that
the
works.
second word that's like it's MGLW apostrophe
Mhm.
NAFH. How do you pronounce
I would not be able to. I would not be able to.
exactly? I know, it's just but there you
Mhm,
go. There's like one of the super famous phrases from the Call of Cthulhu,
mhm.
the person that made Cthulhu and very popular nowadays. So
Okay.
reminds me, I need to find an amigurumi pattern of Cthulhu and make that. So um
When I think of Cthulhu, I just think of the South Park episode, or I guess it was a trilogy of episodes and whatnot,
mhm.
where Cthulhu comes in and Cartman befriends it, and this like I forget what anime they were making fun of it, but essentially it's I feel like a Studio Ghibli style one, or maybe that other guy Miyazaki or whatnot from it. But yeah, and that's
Mm.
what I think of when I think of Cthulhu, of him just being like this little. It's just funny. I don't know if you haven't seen it. I definitely recommend it because it's a funny episode. It's a good trilogy of three.
Mhm.
But anyhow, let's do wrap ups. You can do your
Yeah.
shout out.
Sure. Let me just flip around my camera
No worries.
so that you can see me. There you go. Yeah, but it's dark behind me, so warning. You dork.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I am a freelance graphic designer, illustrator. I also knit and crochet. I do
Mm-hmm.
commissions, but you'll be
Mm-hmm.
put on a list at least for the time being. I do have other stuff going on, so if you're okay with that, um, I can definitely we can definitely work something out, and I'll put you down. There's also all my socials. I'm doing Inktober every single day for this month. I am
Mm-hmm.
posting videos and illustrations on my social media, so be sure to follow that. Thank you.
Yep.
Wow.
Every Thursday morning, the Nerds Have Spoken podcast uploads videos. So give them a check out on various social media platforms, either watching them on YouTube or listening to them on your favorite podcasting program. And they are doing the Saturday night meetups. So definitely a good area to hang. Oh, wait, the area. Where did that word come from?
Mm.
A good place to hang out if you want to talk live with everyone. The Shelf Gravy every other Wednesday. They do dioramas, props, things of that nature, show you, and then they at the end of the episode they give away what they made on. So it's definitely something to watch and participate for, since you can win fun gifts, prizes, and
Definitely.
learn stuff to make your displays awesome. Our music is done by Duts. Oh my God, I cannot speak. You're the one who talked this whole episode, and I'm the one that
Dust
can't speak.
mites.
Dust
Dust
mites.
mites. There you go.
I can't. I literally have messed up on every single one of these. I literally cannot speak today. Oh,
It's okay.
jeez. Dust mites. I know he has the new album out, but this one, of course, for adult music, so you can listen to all his stuff on as well as
Listen to all of
other
it.
music platforms. This is playlists I said too. Well, those too, all those type of stuff. So please give him a listen and a shout out. You can definitely find him on Facebook and other social media. Oh my God.
Social media?
Social media platforms. I
There
don't
you
know what
go.
Mesias is. Yeah, I can literally.
It was the Cthulhu speak. I'm so
It was a
sorry.
cool thing. Yeah, that's it. I've been cursed. You can follow us on social media platforms as well. Social medias as too. Socials. I forget what someone was saying something about the socials. You can get social with us. That's what it was. So it's just like, hey, why don't
Oh,
you
there
get?
you go.
I was watching. It was like on one of those it wasn't The View, but it was like one of those style shows. Like, get social with us at this. I don't know. I just thought it was
Try
funny
and
and
make it
dorky.
spicy. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, making fun of that. Get social with us. Anywho, outside of that, we hope you have a wonderful Thursday, and we will see you next Thursday. So good
Stay
night.
spooky.
Very spooky. Bye. Bye.